slept. No purpose, no call to wake you. But now, something has risen from the ruins of the old war.
Losten wikt me, Boris. Mun.
Let's go.
The twin queens, the sisters, have sent their most beloved commander, Vor, on an urgent mission. To protect the twisted crusade they have begun. To transform the scattered colonies into an empire. To see that the Tenno, hidden and asleep, will never awake.
I got caught.
Let's get good. I am the Gamer Under Development, and this is my Warframe New Player's Guide to the Galaxy. So we're going to take a quick look at the 3 starter Warframes, and then I'm going to tell you which one I would take if I was you. You can take whichever one you prefer, but I do want to be clear that the one I'm recommending for some very solid reasons, but I'll get to that. So the one most commonly recommended by Warframe players is Excalibur here. Excalibur is a perfect balance of mobility and offense. Excalibur is the ideal Warframe for new players, like the game tells you. Now, Excalibur does have a passive that means that he deals 10% increased damage and attacks 10% faster when wielding swords. His abilities consist of Slash Dash here, which dashes and slashes, doing some damage. He's got Radio Blind, which will blind a group of enemies, allowing you to execute melee finishers on them, which will kill them nearly instantly in the early game. So once again, very useful for new players. And then he's got Radial Javelin that does that. It shoots out radial javelins that stick people to walls and stuff. Very cool. And then his final ability, and this is the one that most people recommend him because of, is his Exalted Blade. Now, one of the types of abilities in Warframe that you'll see kind of prolifically through different Warframes is the Exalted Weapon. Now, this is an Exalted Blade, basically, but there are also Exalted Guns for some of the different frames and things. And all that means is that their ability is a super-powered weapon that you can actually upgrade with mods and things, which makes it really versatile and powerful. However, one thing you'll notice is that all of these things don't really help anybody but Excalibur, which is why I'm not going to recommend Excalibur, because when you hit the mid-game, you will be doing group content with other people, and Excalibur will kind of become the frame that you just don't use anymore because he doesn't really specialize in anything. Like, he doesn't. He's not a group buffer, he's not a self buffer, he's not the best at defense, he's not the best at survival, he's just alright. He's kind of your jack of all trades, master of none, which is why I don't recommend picking him, because as a new player myself, when I got to sort of the mid-game and got a few other frames, I basically just stopped using him entirely. Okay, so then we'll go take a look at Mag here. Mag is the frame out of these 3 that I have the least amount of experience with, but I do understand how she works. So bullet jumping with Mag pulls items in for easy collection. That's a cool passive. Unfortunately, there is a companion mod that basically completely does the same thing, so it's kind of nullified. She has pull here, which will drag people in so you can melee them. It also causes them to ragdoll in a very cool way and does some magnetic damage, which will help you strip away shields. All of those things are cool. Drop chance 25%. Does that increase the drop chance of items? That makes it much more interesting in and of itself. Okay, creates a magnetic field. This is her second ability, Magnetize. Creates a magnetic field that will pick up bullets and all sorts of other things and hold it there. The field does do damage over time and snares enemies. And then when you polarize, which is her 3, you emit an energy pulse that depletes enemy shields and armor, creating shards which become deadly when mixed with magnetize. So magnetize, this will create shards in, and then when magnetize detonates, it does a ton of damage. Shields of allies are restored if they're touched by the pulse. So basically she can strip shields, she can buff shields, and she can pull stuff. So she does have some use in a group setting. There is that. And then she has Crush, which is basically exactly what it sounds like. Lift a dude up, crush them in on themselves. Very cool ability. Now, I'm not recommending Mag because of the fact that Mag doesn't end up being one of the like desired frames for some of the mid-game content that you will be doing in a group. Volt, on the other hand, is, and we'll get to why in just a moment. Volt can create and harness electrical elements. This is a high-damage Warframe, perfect for players who want a potent alternative to gunplay. So Volt is a little bit of a caster, but every frame can use gunplay, so that's not really as clear as it could be. Grounded movement generates an electrical charge building up 5 damage per meter that is unleashed with the next attack. So basically, as you move, you increase the damage of your abilities. He has Shock, which is a pretty basic attack. It does some damage, it stuns an enemy, it can chain to other enemies, so you can, with the right build, kind of wipe out a group of enemies with it. Speed will give you a brief boost of movement speed. So if you're a new player and you're trying to get to the key points of content that you need to get to, being able to move faster through each of your missions is going to be a big boon. That is also not why we're picking him, even though, keep in mind, this will buff the speed of your entire team and the reload speed of your entire team. Very, very good there. Which is another reason to say that he's an alternative to gunplay is kind of silly, because he does allow you to reload faster. This right here, Electric Shield, is the reason why Volt is a part of the desired team for a lot of mid-game content, and that is because he deploys a shield, and if you shoot through the shield, you do an extra 50% electrical damage, and I believe critical damage, but I could be wrong on that. That might be with a specific mod. Bottom line, you increase the damage that you deal by 50%, and that's at base. You can increase that number based on the way that you mod Volt. And that is why he is desired in a lot of mid-game content teams, is because he puts down his shield, everybody shoots through it. That is 4 members of your team dealing additional damage. So you basically quadruple the damage output of your team to some degree. That makes him really good for the mid-game content. The rest of this stuff also makes him good for you as a new player. And then Discharge is his sort of big ability, his number 4. He unleashes his static energy, paralyzes nearby hostiles with a damaging electrical charge. This also shocks all the enemies, and it holds them in place. So even if it doesn't kill them, it holds them in place so that you can then turn around and headshot them, which makes Volt very, very useful. So once again, Volt is my recommended frame here, primarily because he does see use in a lot of the endgame boss fight type of teams because of his electric shield. I did forget to mention as well that you can pick his electric shield up and carry it with you. The problem with that is that I believe while you do that, it constantly drains your energy, which is something that, depending on your build, could be a problem. Okay, so we are taking Volt here, for sure.
Wake up, Tenno.
Yes, Space Mom. That's Space Mom, guys.
I see the Lotus has tried to wake you. Pity she's too late.
This is creepy Uncle Vor.
You're my prize now, Tenno. No. We are taking this one with us.
What has he done to you? I can't lose another Tenno. I am surging your Warframe's power systems.
Boom!
Quick, use your power. Defend yourself.
Okay, so Vor is a Grineer commander, and his job is to hunt down and kill Tenno. Unfortunately, Vor also likes power, so he doesn't want to kill us, he wants to control us. That thing he just installed is called an Ascaris. You can see it in our ankle right there. And it is allowing him to get into our mind. And right now we're just running around doing our Shocky Volt thing. So if I move around here and you look at the top right corner, you can see that little number going up. Looks like a little plus symbol. That is my static charge. And as that gets higher, the damage that I do with my 1 is going to increase. So you'll see that it does deal more damage the more of that static charge that I build up. So we could build this up. I'm just going to kind of jet around to build this up quickly. Don't mind me. I will explain the movement system in a moment once we get out of here. Actually, I might explain it once it just stops spawning these dudes, if it does stop spawning them, because movement is such a key part of this game. So, things you can do movement-wise.
On its way, but the
Alright.
Grineer will be hunting you. Arm yourself.
Thank you, Space Mom. One thing I'm going to do real quick, folks, because otherwise she's going to keep cutting me off, and everybody else is going to keep cutting me off, and we're not going to get as far as we could. I'm going to take our transmission volume and our Ortus volume down. And the reason for that is so that I can continue talking. You can read what she's saying on screen, and if it's important to the story, I will explain it. Anyways, so movements in Warframe. We have the ability to crouch. We have the ability to jump and double jump. If we're moving while we crouch, we slide. If we're crouched and we jump, we do this thing called a bullet jump, where you kind of, see, you shoot forward, or you shoot wherever you're looking. So if you look up while you bullet jump, then you'll go up. See how high that got us in the air? So if we wanted to get up to that balcony right there, for example, we could double jump, but we're not going to make it. On the other hand, if we bullet jump, well, there we go. We can make it. That wasn't a perfect bullet jump. There are some other parkour movements that we'll explain as we go forward, but one of the things I do want you to do when you spawn in right here is just try this motion out. Crouch, bullet jump, and then crouch again while you're bullet jumping. Because you can chain these, well, you have to be holding forward to do it. I was just kind of doing it in place. But if you are holding forward when you do it, you can chain them together, and this is the way that people move around the world of Warframe. They just slide, bullet jump, slide, bullet jump, slide, bullet jump. And it takes a little bit to get used to, it really does, but it's very efficient, and it's a lot faster than sprinting. So what you want to do is when you start playing, take a little bit of time, just practice this, just have fun with this. And I'm going to show you my mouse real quick, because I do have my mouse bound a little bit different to make that work a little more effectively. So this is my mouse right here, it's a Razer Naga Hex. I've got 6 buttons on the side, because it's a MOBA mouse, and I've got 2 right here. So this is my crouch/slide. And then my 6 is my sprint. So I can basically hold down sprint all the time. And then if I tap my mouse, I slide. And then if I press spacebar, I bullet jump, slide, bullet jump, slide, bullet jump, slide. Basically, that's what you want to be doing for your movement in Warframe. It will take a little bit to get used to, that's okay, but what I do want to stress is do not give up and just resort to sprinting everywhere, because sprinting everywhere isn't as effective. If you double tap sprint, you will roll. See these cool rolls right here? You can also do some gymnastics. If you slide and back roll, you do a handspring. That doesn't really do anything, but look really cool. You can also do that in midair. So if I bullet jump here, I can roll in midair. Now, rolling will reduce the damage that you take during the roll animation by 50%, so kind of useful. However, I don't use that much because, realistically, if you're bullet jumping around like this, it makes it harder for enemies to hit you and also reduces your damage from a purely evasive standpoint. Okay, so it's telling us to hold 6 to sprint there. That's because that's bound on my, my mouse. It's going to tell us to jump here. We're going to choose our melee weapon. So I recommend taking the Skana here. If you take X-Scow, you have to take the Skana because he does boost your melee damage and attack speed with swords, so do take the Skana. I'm taking it anyway because the Skana has slashing damage and the bow has more of impact damage. So different damage types have different effects. Impact is less preferable in my opinion than Slash. Slash applies a damage over time, which means it'll help you kill things a little faster. You can press E to swing that melee weapon. You can press your middle mouse button to power attack with that melee weapon. That's what these are. If you get used to jumping around a little bit, you can do something very important that they don't explain too much in the tutorial. If you double jump and then hit E while you're facing the ground, or even jump and hit E while facing the ground, you do this little slam thing, right? Seems pretty cool. Well, what's really cool about it is if you do that with a power attack, you do that little shockwave, and it actually pops enemies up in the air. As a new player, if you are surrounded by 10 enemies and they are beating the crud out of you, this will save your life. Jump up, strong attack. Just repeatedly do it. You can keep them popped up in the air and they will not kill you. It is such an easy way to survive if you get overwhelmed, so practice that for sure. If you walk up to somebody and you're undetected, you can press X to just stealth attack kill them. You can also do that if they're blinded or any other sort of effect like that, which is why the radial blind, I believe that's what it's called for Excalibur, is so useful. Stealth attack this guy as well. Okay, so now we get to pick our secondary weapon here, and we're going to go ahead and grab the Leto. Now, I'm having you take the Lado for a reason. Later on, this can be upgraded into another weapon, which will spare us a weapon slot, which is something we'll discuss once we get out of here. Hi there, Mr. Grenier. Get headshot. So you can aim with the right mouse button, fire with the left mouse button. Some weapons do have an alternate fire, which is on your middle mouse button while aiming. This is not one of them, or actually just middle mouse button while the weapon is out. So we don't need to worry about alternate fire here, but we do have the ability to headshot people. Okay, that wasn't a headshot, but give me a break, guys. I'm trying. If you slide and you press melee, by the way, I forgot to mention this, you'll do this nice spinning, sliding slash attack. That's with every single weapon, very, very functional there. These are resource nodes, so you can walk up to lockers that have a green light, press X to open them. Red ones you cannot open because they are locked. And there are white ones you'll encounter later, which are special caches for missions you should absolutely get. If a node is shining like this, it means that you can break it for resources. I do want to point out, when you're doing regular missions, unless you're there specifically to gather resources, you just want to break these as you come across them. Don't go out of your way to look for them. You will get plenty. And here comes our Uber. Yes, we're ready. Let's go. Uh-oh. I guess not. Creepy Uncle Vor didn't like the Uber driver. Alrighty then. So the game's going to tell us here to pull our melee weapon out and face Vor. As you can see, that will parry shots to reduce the damage that you take. So if you are being overwhelmed by enemies, pulling your melee weapon out so that you can reduce incoming damage is actually a very useful thing you can do. We're going to run over here to Vor. He's going to be like, nah, I'm out. Peace. And then we are going to use our bullet jump to move very quickly to the next objective, which should spawn right up there. Yes? Yes? Give me objective. There we go. So we could have gone the long way around the staircase, but instead you can see how effective bullet jumping is here. We can also bullet jump across here and aim glide by aiming while we're in mid-jump, and that'll let us sort of coast our way across things. It helps with closing gaps and things. We did see a ferrite there on the way. I'm going to actually hit that because we will need some ferrite here early on. Go ahead and kill that guy. Mainly just taking guys out on the way here so they don't harass us too much when we get there. So you can double jump here. You can wall dash across walls by jumping on them and holding space. So there you go. You jump right across by holding space. You can also vertically wall jump by just holding space again. So basically, if you're holding down the space bar, it's almost impossible to fall off stuff. So try to keep that in mind as you move forward. Since we did take the Lado here, and the Lado makes noise when we fire it, we're going to go ahead and take the Mark I Paris bow as our primary weapon. This is a silent weapon, which means that we can use it in spy and stealth missions without, well, I mean, spy missions are stealth missions, but we can basically use it in situations where we do not want the enemy to know we're there. In spy missions, it's incredibly helpful to have a silent weapon so that you can shoot cameras and then not have to worry about being seen by them. This will easily allow us to do that. Now, if you did go the other way, if you took the kunais at the first spot, then you can take the Brayton here. It's actually a much better weapon. You can press F to cycle through your weapons, and as we've already discussed, E will use your melee. So we have our Mark I Paris bow, we have our Lado, we have our Skana. We're ready to get out of here. Time to finish these guys off and keep moving. There is another Uber there waiting for us. Hello, Uber. Sup? We do have to hit this switch here, though, to free the Uber, because it is anchored down, I guess. This is the hacking minigame. You see that little spinning thing? When it lights up those little nodes, we want to press space. You can get them all in one go if you practice enough, which is pretty useful, to be honest, because a lot of the times those will be timed sequences. Now we're going to have to defend our orbiter here as our space butler, Ortis, gets everything ready for us to go. I actually do wish that I had Ortis' dialogue turned on, because he's hilarious. Like, Ortis is absolutely one of my favorite parts of the game. The reason I do have their dialogue turned off, though, folks, is once again so that I can explain things without them necessarily talking over me. Alright, looking pretty good. We're just stalling out until Ortis is ready to get out of here. We're using our bow here to get some finishing damage on people. Very interestingly, we did shock damage with our bow there, and I'm wondering if our static electricity actually applies to weapons as well. I had never thought about that. It does. Okay. So that makes the static electricity passive even better, because electricity combined with cold will give you magnetic damage. So if you build that static charge up, and then you also do cold damage with your weapons, you'll get a magnetic damage, which is nice. At least I assume they'll combine into that. I could be wrong. All right, we're getting out of here. We're breaking out of this joint. The Uber driver has figured out how to find us, and we're gone. That is our orbiter, by the way. The orbiter is your ship that you live on and will deliver you to most of your missions. Very, very cool. We can actually redesign it, make it look pretty. We can fly it around like I was doing right there. When you're on those loading screens, you can actually fly it around with WASD, which is just kind of a fun little thing. That is Cephalon Ortis on the right side of the screen right now. He's telling us about our ship and how he's glad to have us back, and about how out of shape he is and that we should have him self-destruct because he's very self-deprecating, which is why Ortis is hilarious. Ortis is your space butler, and he's just awesome. I love him. Now, Space Mom is letting us know we should maybe fix our ship up a little bit because it's kind of janky right now. You can see it looks like it's seen better days. Yeah, it's definitely seen better days. We can repaint the entire interior of our ship, but we are not doing that right now because instead we have to work through the prologue. So we're going to come over here and install a new segment. So as you can see, we're putting like this little segment charge inside the ship. You'll do that throughout the prologue, but actually later in the game, there are some upgrades that you'll do that with as well. This is how you will install any segment that you get by just walking up to the thing and activating it once you have the segment. You honor Ortis. Now I can supply the operator with better modded firepower. So if we go into our arsenal here, now we can kind of take a look at our weapons and things. We can take a look at upgrades later because they're not available just yet. We can, however, go into the appearance here, and now we could modify our colors and things if we really wanted to. We could be a different color Volt. The colors available to you at the base are not amazingly great. They're really just not. You can unlock the full palette for 75 platinum, which is the premium currency. We're not going to do that. One thing we will be doing, because it's the wisest decision you can really make, is pay attention for holiday color palettes, because they will exist. Thank you, loud car that just drove by. And you can actually pick them up from the market, which is something we'll get into in a moment. We do need to go do one more quest before we get, or one more mission rather, before we get access to the market. So this is navigation on your ship. You walk up to it right here. You can also reach it just by hitting escape and going to navigation once it's repaired, which it is not currently. You can see right here that we have a resource drop chance booster. Not sure where that came from, but okay. And then if we go over here, we have our active quests. There will be tons of different icons up here eventually. You definitely want to scroll through these and check them because that's where you're going to find all of your cool opportunities. There'll be events that appear up there that you might not notice otherwise, so always check this upper corner. Our next quest is Vor's Prize here, where we go to E Prime to restore our ship's communications. So we're going to do that one real quick. This is, I believe, a spy mission. Spy missions function by you going in and essentially hacking usually 3 consoles, but I think in the case of the tutorial you only have to hack 1. Now the trick is you want to do that without being detected, because if you are detected, it starts a timer. If you fail to hack the terminal before that timer runs out, you fail collecting that object. Now normally there's 3, so you can fail 2 of them and only get 1 and still succeed the mission. Here we only have 1, and Vor is taunting us through the Ascaris. He's trying to mind control us or get into our head. We're not going to allow him to, though. We're going to keep working on getting the Ascaris out of us. If you look at our right shoulder now, you can see that the Ascaris is spreading, though. Oh, how did I whiff that? There we go. Beautiful headshot from downtown. We're going to go ahead and use bullet jumping, like I mentioned before, to get around a little bit quicker for this mission, so we don't end up spending too much time. You do want to be careful, though, because if you're bullet jumping through a stealth mission, it's very easy to accidentally get seen by somebody and cause the alarms to be set off. One thing to also keep in mind, speaking of... Uh-oh. Who did we alert? Where are they? One thing to keep in mind as well is that if you do alert people to your presence, they do have to... Where are you at? They do have to run and set off an alarm before it'll actually alert everybody else in the facility. So if you can find them and kill them before they do that, you won't set off any alarms. So we're going to keep moving now because we've killed everybody that's seen us. There's very little chance that we're going to be noticed at that point. We will need to hack a terminal here to get into the main room for this sort of spying objective, and that's pretty standard. Gonna hack right through there real quick. See that glowy light right there? That is a detector. If we jump through that, we get detected, and it's game over. We can slide to get under it, though, or we can just wait for it to go down. When you're doing spy missions, you want to look for things like this. That is one route in. There is another route. We could hop along these walls here. Normally, this water will be electrified, though, so that makes that a more dangerous route. This, however, is going to be the most efficient route. We shoot out that grate. We bullet jump into a wall, which gets us nowhere, and then we drop into the actual objective undetected by any enemies. We could open all these lockers, but I'm not really worried about it right now. And then we come in, hack that point, Bam, we're done. And as you can see, our frame just ranked up to 1, our Lado just ranked up to 1, and the rest of our weapons should rank up to 1 as well. Yep, the Paris goes up to 1, and now there's enemies shooting at us because we're on the way out. Doesn't matter though, they didn't detect us before we got the hack, so we will get a bonus for that. If you manage to acquire all of the spy nodes without being detected at all, you do get a bonus reward. So that's something to keep in mind when you take these missions in the future. We could have used that escalator thing here to climb up, but there's really no need, and honestly right here we just want to do this. Bye! Everybody get toasty. You don't need to fight those guys. That was sort of just me showing that Volt's electric attack is really fun. Once you've got your objective done, you will see a green marker that tells you that's your extraction point. You just run straight to that. Don't need to fight any of these guys. Note, though, that since we're not fighting them, we will not be gaining additional affinity on our weapons from fighting them. That's okay, we'll get affinity from finishing the mission anyway. The way that ranking up weapons works is you build affinity, which ranks up the weapons and your frames. As you rank up your weapons and your frames, that affinity transfers to your account's mastery rank. Mastery rank does things like give you increased ability to gain reputation with other factions, as well as unlock access to new weapons and new game mechanics. So it is important that you're constantly building your mastery rank up. In order to do that, you will need to raise the rank on your weapons and your frames. Every frame you complete gives you 6,000 mastery. Every weapon you complete gives you 3,000 mastery. It does seem, from my experience, that the last 1,000 mastery that you get from those comes from hitting maximum rank, so you don't want to sell things off before you've maxed them out, and you do want to constantly be ranking weapons. So right now, our Paris is rank 2, our Skana's rank 1, and our Lado's rank 1, and our Volt's rank 1. The reason the Paris is rank 2 is because when you kill enemies with a weapon, you actually get more affinity on that weapon. Also, if you take a single weapon into a mission with you, that weapon will gain all of the affinity that the other weapons would have gained, so you can kind of use that to power level a single weapon. Early on, like right now, you don't really need to do that. It's actually not beneficial because you'll just burn through the weapons available to you before you really have anything worth replacing them with, and that will kind of burn through your weapon slots, which is something I want to take a look at right now. If we go to our inventory here that's under equipment, you can see all these wonderful slots. So we start out with these 3 weapons, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 available slots. When you run out of weapon slots, you have to purchase new weapon slots or sell weapons. It does cost 12 platinum, which is the premium currency. We start with 50. We do not want to use our platinum on weapon slots if we don't have to. So we'll be selling a lot of weapons off and trying to basically use weapons that we can upgrade into other weapons, thus allowing us to conserve slots. So the reason we took the Lado in the beginning is because once the Lado is max rank, we can upgrade it and turn it into a weapon called the Bolto later, and that will basically make it so that when we construct the Bolto with the Lado, it'll empty a slot, and then the Bolto will go back in that slot, thus reusing the weapon slot so we don't end up filling all of them and then having to spend platinum on more. That's basically what we're going to try to do, is keep building weapons that we can turn into other weapons. So we're going to install our market segment here next. This is part of the prologue, and now Ortis is going to make some funny lines, and we're going to go ahead and open our market. Now I do want to show you something very important here. If I search for Frost, for example, I can go scroll through here, and look, here's the Frost Aurora helmet. Wow, that's cool. Do I want to purchase that for 75 plat? Absolutely not. We want to save our plat to buy Warframe slots and weapon slots. So what you're going to do here to make your experience in the market much easier is toggle this blueprints only check right here. And then when you do that, what's going to happen is it's only going to show you things that have blueprints. Blueprints can be purchased with credits. So now if I search Frost, I will find just the Frost frame, and I can buy his blueprint here for 25,000 credits, or I could purchase him outright with a slot and an Orkin reactor for 375 plat, which we're not going to do. If we did want to build Frost, we would just come in and get the blueprint, and then we would gather all of the parts through missions and build the parts and build the actual frame. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind here is sometimes there will be things like this, so you may want to toggle blueprints off. We can go ahead and get this Lepus headgear for 5k. We can get an Easter color palette for 1k. That's going to give us a few more colors to work with when we do upgrade the appearance of our frames and things. We can get the Spring Step Ephemera for another 5k. So if we spend the 10k that we have here, and I'm going to because I generally try to collect stuff from the holiday events like this, we can get these silly things like this headgear and the Egg Step Ephemera that makes it so that when you walk, you'll leave eggs behind you. Don't know that that's necessarily my favorite one of those, but it is something that we can pick up now that's relatively cheap. And we do have a new mission to do. Unfortunately, though, that is going to be all the time for this first episode. We did cover a lot of topics here. Feel free to scrub back through the video if you need to review anything like bullet jumping or using your slam attack. We'll get into a few more things next video, probably things like mastery rank, modding, and upgrading those mods. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to go ahead and give us a like or subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Bye!